So thank you for everyone who's joining us on Zoom. I'm just acclimating to everyone that is in the room. We have 8 people in the room this evening, but thank you for joining wherever you are. This is being recorded. I believe the recording's on. Yes, it is. You should have received confirmation of that. So this is not a comprehensive, gigantic, multi-week program, though I had an idea for that. We'll see if there's enough interest, maybe we will do that. But the EB Create Makerspace was built in 2017, and we're excited to finally fully unveil the studio. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about, so I've got a few different things going on here. So we do have an agenda. So I'm gonna ask you guys some questions. There's people in the room. You don't have to do the survey online. If you want to on your device, you can. We're gonna talk about the room that we are some of you are watching from in, what the recording studio has in terms of the hardware and the software, the free web-based services that we actually use to host our podcast, and they don't cost anything, which is great, and you can use them from home with what you already have. And let me turn off, hide the captioning for us, hold on. Hide subtitle, there we go, you should be able to see that better, and how the podcast is made, and then some future events that we're gonna be having. So for those of you who are at home, or for those of you who are in the room, I'm going to ask some questions. I'm going to use Slido so then the people that are here and the people there can interact a little bit better. So if you go onto a web browser, or if you're on a computer at home, you're going to go to slido.com. That's SLIDO.com. You're going to enter that code 7985937. If you have a phone, you can take your photo app, hold it up to the square that you see on the screen, and you'll be able to access the slides. Let's see. Do you need me to move out of the way? Yeah, so I'm going to give you guys a little bit more time for that. Everyone's able to hear me, right? I'm getting audio feeds. So, okay. So our first question is going to be, what do you hope to learn from this workshop? So if you are using the Slido, you can type in, we'll see in real time. If you're in the room and you would rather tell me, I can relay that to the people that are at home as well. So what are you guys here in the room hoping to learn? If you can type on your Slido, you don't have to look at me, I'm fine with that. But again, the process, okay. Overview of how to use equipment, basics of how to make a podcast. Any other feedback? Actually, Megna, can you close that door for me, please? Thank you. Wait one little bit longer, make sure overview of the equipment. So we have an idea. So everyone's kind of at a different interest level with your, where you're at in the process, just general knowledge, all that. So our second question is going to be, how comfortable are you with technology? That should pop up and you can select, and you don't have to say this out loud because not everyone wants to admit where they are in the proficiencies, and there might be you're really good at spreadsheets and then you give yourself anything else and you're like, I can't figure this out. So completely comfortable. Somewhat comfortable. Oh, we got very comfortable here. That's always exciting. Somewhat comfortable. Wait a little bit longer. Okay, so there's no one who's terrified of new technology or they're not admitting it. Don't worry, this is anonymous. I can't see what your responses are if you want to be more obvious with yourself, but that's fine. So this gives me an idea of where I should be starting and if I needed to adapt it all, but sounds like everyone's got at least some level of comfort with technology. So what is EB Create? This is the makerspace of East Brunswick Public Library. It was built in 2017. So finally had a little bit of a revamp after COVID because things were in flux, but we're excited. We're going to be reopening by appointment soon. They're still finishing all of that out. But yeah, so this is our space. Everyone's welcome to come and use the space. You do not need to be a resident or a card holder here to use the space. To check out a lending kit, you need to be a resident. That's the only restriction. So we're working on that reservation system. Check back. We're hoping very soon. So the recording studio, which is directly across from me, if I swivel over, I will probably throw the camera off and knock my cart over. So I'm not going to do that. I've spent the past few months working on this. Luckily, our director, John Arthur, is a musician. So I was like, hi, musician, do you want to help make our recording studio a more exciting and fun place that people want to use? People have been using it, but it was more of a, if you kind of figured it out on your own comfort level. So we're excited to be able to have it a little bit more user-friendly. So it will be available by appointment in 2-hour increments. If there isn't anything afterwards, you can extend your time. So that should give you enough time to do all your editing and things, saving your files, which as we know can take longer than creating your files because computers, luckily our computer is new. So you're not worrying about this sitting there and watching the ball as your file saves. There is a maximum of 2 people in the space, and even with 2 people, I would say it's a little cozy. So for the people who will be here, we're gonna do a little bit of walkthrough and they can hang out in it, but that picture you're looking is it from the door. So this is a small space. It actually used to be 2 closets that we, during the renovation of the building, made into a studio. So the hardware, which is the stuff that is probably the things that you may not have at home and be the most likely reason you would want to use our space. First of all, the room is sound dampened. It is not fully soundproofed. We're working on hopefully getting the glass, which is the last part that is not soundproof, dealt with. So you do get some sounds. We're working on making sure that there's no events in this space while people are reporting, but we cannot guarantee that it will be dead silent. So you may hear some things coming through the room. So we have 2 Shure M7 microphones, which are a podcasting style microphone. One is on the workstation, which you're looking at the picture of the slide. And then there's one on a second boom arch. So the second musician, or if you have an instrument, you can be set further back from the computer and still have the same microphone, just a different stand format. We have 2 Sony microphones. So for the person, so if you do have 2 people, you both can listen to monitoring. We have an Apogee Maestro 2, which is our, is actually the mixer where all the inputs go into. And we have everything labeled. We have a webcam similar to this one. It's our Logitech Pro C922. So when we do interviews on Zoom, we can actually see people when we're recording, and also you could still do other things on there. You can even do video podcasts and things. The space does have the capacity to do that. We have a mini mixer. So if you want to do notations, mini drum pad, we do have that on there. We have a Louvet guitar pickup, which is actually goes behind the strings on a guitar and then has a quarter plug-in. So you can actually record from a guitar that is not already electrified into the system and play and capture. And also there is the, that's the transducer. And also it's hardware. It's currently at Guitar Center, but we do have a classical guitar that will live in that space. I'm not saying it's the most wonderful guitar, but if there's a case of, you're picking out songs and notation, you do have the ability to, if you want to pick up an instrument that you can play along, and it has a tuner and everything as well. So the software, which is the other reason that you guys will be coming and using the space, other than maybe your house is a little chaotic and a little bit noisy. It is a Mac Mini. So it has GarageBand because it is an Apple computer. It has Adobe Audition, which is the main thing that we use for the library podcast for audio editing. It has Premiere Pro, which is for video editing. So if you're doing other things there, so if you're doing voiceovers or things, you can sync in your audio here if you're going to do all of that. So both of those pieces of software are on that computer. Then you have the Apogee Maestro 2, which is how you actually take the mixer and you can play with your levels on the screen, in the visual format, not just with the toggle button. We have this software called Shure Plus Motive, which actually is part of the Shure microphones. What we've learned is, I'll tell you, there's little tricks. It seems to be that for some cases, recording directly through the mic to the computer and not through the mixer sometimes gets you better audio. So we wanted to put it on there so you can, if you get really geeky and you like to tweak your audio, which will happen the longer you're in there. I warn you, once you go down the rabbit hole, you're not coming back. We have Loopback, which helps you route audio from one area to another. So if you're trying to have people coming in and you want to record it from another application, you can tell the computer where to put it. And then, of course, we do have Zoom on it, which is what we actually use for the library podcast. So if you are an East Brunswick card holder, is anyone in here an East Brunswick card holder? So almost everyone. Do you have a East Brunswick library card? Yes. So if you are an East Brunswick library card holder, we do have these lending kits that you can use in the library. Well, they're in the library, but you can check them out for 2 weeks with your library card. We have one that is called the Home Recording Studio Lending Kit. And I actually have it out on the table here for the people who are here. It is a Snowball condenser microphone. It comes with an ivory guitar, so you can actually plug an electric guitar into the iPad that comes with it. You can record everything from voice to guitar with this kit. So you can take it home for 2 weeks, do all your recording things, and then bring it back. Doesn't cost you anything. That's coming from the East Brunswick Friends of the Library. So if you don't want to necessarily use the studio, or you want to, you can take that home and you can play with it. So maybe it'll be easier with the flexibility of your time. So yeah, but if you want to go up and play with it, we do have 2 of them. So there's usually one here, so you're not fighting over the kits. So what I know a lot of people were interested in is about how the library distributes the podcast, does the editing and things, because everyone says, I can tell this, that there was another library that were told they can't do a library podcast because it costs money. They wouldn't approve the funds. It doesn't have to cost anything, which is cool. It costs time. So yes, money is time, it's staffing, everything, but it does not incur additional costs. You do not have to build a recording studio at your house or in your library to be able to do a podcast. So we use what's called, let me move myself out of the way for the people in here. It's called Anchor.fm. It allows you to host your podcast for free. You can even record and edit directly online with your existing home setup. And it even has an app that you can just record like this and make your podcast, which is pretty cool, right? That's much more simple than it used to be. You do not need to hire an audio engineer and have server space and have your own, accounts, and you don't have to do that in the same way. And once you do have your podcast set up, it will help you distribute, to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, etc. Anchor is actually part of Spotify. So the cool thing about that is that you can use some music that is on Spotify in your podcast, which when you're doing podcasting, you need to be very careful about the music and content you use if it is not yours, because you can be sued. And you don't want to have that happen. Most people, I don't think, would want to have that happen to them, but you just have to be, it's one of those things you need to be careful about rights and all those things. But because Anchor is part of Spotify, you can get, I haven't played with it, you can get like up to 2 minutes of a song in it. So you could maybe be saying, oh, I'm listening to my top 3 favorite songs, or there's certain songs that you want to do analysis of if you're deep diving into that kind of thing. So you'll be able to add those in and you don't have to worry about the rights. So the EBPL podcast, how many people have listened to the EBPL podcast? One person. I hope some people online have listened to it too. Anyway, so that's fine. We're new. So we started last May. And actually the only podcast that we had last May was 73 Words in the 73-2, where we interviewed people who submitted to our short story competition. And they were able to tell us a little bit about the writing process and then read their 73-word short story. These are very short episodes, as you can imagine. And then after that, what we did is we took the audio from virtual programs. Since we had all of these recordings, we went through and determined which of the programs were okay to be an audio only format. Obviously, a computer class or an art history class is not going to work in an audio only format. So we took the ones that we did think would be audio friendly, and we added those as what we call it encore presentations. So we did from the archives. And then last September is when we actually started having real shows with hosts, and that wasn't just me talking to myself or talking to a writer. So we've had, basically we're going to be hitting our year in a few months, and we're very excited that we've been doing it. We have a lot of fun. We have different hosts, we have different ideas. And so we try to we usually do a 5-episode series of something so that we don't burn out. We get excited and then we can move on to a new idea. And if that first idea is really popular, we can bring it back. So that's what we do with some of our different shows. They're recurring, and then some things are only for that 5-episode duration. So we use Audacity or Adobe Audition to record our podcast. Audacity, we use, it's actually software that has existed since about 1998. It still looks like it's from 1998, but I'm comfortable with a very simple, clean user face where you don't add 5 million buttons and windows that I don't need. It's very straightforward. We use that for direct when it's one person, when we only have a host that does not have interviews coming in. Or you can use Adobe Audition for your editing. I actually record for my interviews directly in Zoom because everyone's comfortable with Zoom. And it was a way to connect people, and you can actually have a video snippet in here that I can show later of you can actually have it Zoom record original sound. So everyone's on their own track with better audio quality, and then you can futz around with it depending on your comfort level with technology. So as I said, sound. So For some reason, the bottom of my slide is cut off. So they're free music and sound effects. The website that I do use is pixabay.com, which some people may recognize. For video and photos, they're all Creative Commons licensed materials that you can use. You just need to attribute them to the author. The accounts are free and everything. And so it has shorter bits of music, longer bits of music, but that's where we've gotten, excuse me, a lot of our intros and outros for our podcast.
What was that website?
Pixabay, Pixabay.com. And don't worry, if you're registered and you're here, I will send you the slides. I actually have a link, a tiny URL, but since you guys are following on phones, I thought that might not be as helpful because looking at the screen behind me might be a little bit easier. So for editing, we use Adobe Audition for the major edits, cuts and intro and outro. So when you're snipping and moving things around, I use it because it's a good visual way for me to hear and preview what something's going to sound like. So I don't make a major error. I make major errors all the time. You have 2 minutes of dead air that you didn't realize you had. So suddenly, this doesn't look like the wrong length of file. It happens. Also for our podcast, which this is something that's not included in the studio and we pay extra for, is called Descript. Basically, you import your sound files, and you can do this for video as well, and it transcribes it, and you can edit it like a Word document. I've learned that my way of frequently, I don't say like, I say so, and I chain all of my sentences together in one long run-on sentence. I can tell Descript, Control, Find, so, and it shows me every time I said it. And I can go, please remove all of these. So not all of them, you can't always remove, but hey, can you remove this awkward part? You can remove awkward pauses, which as we know, especially when you're talking to someone virtually, there's always this little bit of delay. You accidentally talk over each other, and that it helps remove that afterwards. In the case of that I can't really fix it, I can go in and I can fix it there. And then, as I said, we use Pixabay for our stinkers, and for the distribution, Anchorfm helps us get it to all the podcasting platforms. So any of you who has a podcasting app on your phone right now, which you all do, go search the EVPL podcast and click subscribe or follow. We could really use it. Like, comment, and subscribe. Yeah, I'm a streaming. No, I'm not. But it would be very helpful. And also you can get an idea of what we do here using our space. You can get a sense of what we are doing. In the earlier episodes, none of us were in the building. We still weren't in. So we were doing things from home. So everything was being done from home with what we had. So you can hear over time the progression, how things got a little bit different. You can tell when kind of the transition back in, because the audio quality significantly went up. Some of us bought expensive microphones during the pandemic because we were sitting online all the time and we didn't like how we sounded, but not everyone did do that. So I do have a video. I'm not sure I'm going to play it. I may play a snippet of it. I actually do like a walkthrough of how I record on Zoom, how I edit an audition, and then how I upload into the Anchor software. So for the people in here, is there any part of that that sounds like you would like to just see a little quick tutorial of it? Is there any part of that sounds good? The total video is 14 minutes long. And I didn't know if anyone wants to hear the whole thing, or is there specific parts that they'd be interested in? You can ask me, you can tell me too in chat on Zoom, is there any specific part? So the first part is about how to record on Zoom. So this is just for if you're doing interviews. Recording yourself on Zoom isn't necessarily the best because you're going to be going through the internet and coming back to yourself. That's not the best way to record. So that's why you try to record directly. That doesn't work, obviously, when you're not all in the same place. Does anyone have a comment on that? Do you guys have a preference, or do you want to 14 minutes is a long video when you're just sitting there watching a video. You're okay with that? Okay. I get to listen to myself. So I'm going to go on mute while I do this, or we're going to have a really bad feedback loop because the presentation stuff is right behind me. So this is like, I broke it up in segments. This video, I'll also have shared, it's linked in the slides. It took me a while to edit it. I did it over the weekend when it was a little quieter in here. So you get a very quick walkthrough of how I do this. It does not have to be this hard. As I've told people when I say in the video, if you know me, I can't do anything easily. I make things more complicated for myself completely unnecessarily, but then I come out with something at the end. But I just want to give you a taste of what I do. But it's really the last part, and the people who are in here will actually get to go in and play in the studio. So here we go.
Hi, everyone. My name is Melissa Hosick, and I'm the Adult Programming Librarian at the East Brunswick Public Library. Today's video, we're going to give you a little bit of a walkthrough of how I edit and publish the EBPL podcast. So let's get started. We record our interviews on Zoom. You can record directly into Anchor. You can record into your phone. You can record directly to a computer using free applications like Audacity with your existing hardware. We record interviews using Zoom because during the pandemic, that was one, easy and free for us. We already had a subscription. And also our guests typically were more comfortable with that, or we could even offer to have them call in. When you open Zoom, you probably recognize this window, or even when you're in a Zoom meeting, you're going to click on settings. And there's a few things that we do that are important for here in the studio and also wherever you're recording. When you click on audio here in the EB Create Recording Studio, we have a mixer, which is called a duet, and the microphones that we have are Shure MV7s. So what we've learned in Zoom is you need to record directly from the microphone or something really odd happens. We haven't figured out why. We recommend when you're recording in Zoom to record directly into the microphone, the Shure MV7. When you're in a newer version of Zoom, we try to use these other extra settings for at least for us, and if our guests are a little bit more tech savvy, to have them do it as well. You can suppress background noise, which is really helpful if someone has someone else in their household, a pet, they're having a lawn mowing service outside. So you can choose auto, which we don't recommend, low when it's faint, as it says, medium, computer fan and pen taps, high, typing and dog barks. We also have this setting called music and professional audio, and I prefer to have all of these checked. So you'll see, you'll want to check on show in meeting option to enable original sound, and we select all of these options. So this gives us the opportunity to improve the audio and not get the compressed version, and so you don't have that kind of blipping and lagging issue. One of the other settings that we use when we're recording interviews in Zoom is we make sure that we record a separate audio file of each participant. Now, as you know, in Zoom, sometimes with delays, you accidentally speak over someone, and it's easier when you have these separate tracks to go in and mute when necessary. You know, someone coughs, moves a paper, hits the desk, all these things. In the separate audio files, you can clear those out using an audio editor, such as Adobe Audition, which we have here in the recording studio. We're going to close out and we're going to start a new meeting. And I'm a little bit large. I apologize for that. I have the screen a little bit bumped in. So when you do your recording, I personally in the studio record to computer. I seem to get better audio files. I'm going to unmute myself. Obviously, that's an important step because the audio is being captured through Zoom. So I'm doing all of my here. I'm bringing in my guest. What you may or may not know is after you stop your recording, you're going to see that it says it will be converted when the meeting ends. So let's end meeting for all. And we'll see it's converting the file. I've already told it where I want it to record. And obviously you can check where that was. But let's go to the next step where I actually edit, clip together, and export the audio file. I use Adobe Audition to edit our episodes for our podcast. You can record everything on the same track, your music, any other files. You can do that all at once and record to one track, which is actually the easiest. But I don't make things easy. If you know me, what I do is I put it into Audition. This is what Audition looks like. You make a file, new multi-track session. You name it, however you want to save it, where you save it. And it looks like this. You'll see you have, it's usually empty here. I've already put some files in and had them imported. So what you do is you go to File, Import, File, and you choose the music that you want to have in the audio files. So I know that on this podcast, there's a song, and then there's the audio track file that has the interview on it. And you'll see it actually moves it over here. So when you're looking at a multi-track session, you can see track 1, track 2. If everything is recorded to one file, you only need to use track 1, or you don't even need to use Adobe Audition. And then because I have music and other things, I'm going to have it on track 2. Now, under this file name, you can see you can drag this bar back and forth, but zooms you in and out. Most of the time, I have it more zoomed in so I can clean up audio files. So I already have the interview all done. We used Descript as content editing software. You can get it at a nonprofit rate that is much more reasonable, but you don't need this. It's not necessary. So when you're ready to add a file, you drag to exactly where you would like it. I know for us in our podcasts with the intro music, which is what this is, that I like it at 2 seconds. I'm going to go over here and choose the file of the interview and drag it right in. So now let's see what that sounds like mixed together.
Howdy, folks, and welcome to Local Lives, part of the EBPL Podcast Network.
So that's exactly where I want it. In this series, I know that we're highlighting a song of the performer, at least in season 1. I know that when I want to change an audio, you can record it directly in the track and have the person listening. I didn't have enough time to do that in these series, and I like the audio a little bit better. I've now become a bit of an audio snob. So I know that around the 6-minute mark, you can drag this bar to go forward or backward in time. I believe it's around here somewhere.
I'm happy I have that.
Very cool. So let's play your song. Whose Blues Is It?
Okay, so I know it's here, and I take my time bar, and I go up here to the top left, and you'll see something that is called the Razor Selected Clips tool. I just call it the razor. And if you go right over where you have your red time bar, you click it, it clips it exactly where you want it. So I know that this song is on the longer side. So I don't want to have the interview talking over the song. So I know I click on track 2 because that's where I've decided to put my music. And I have the file of the song. We import it in. It's usually pretty quick unless it's obviously a much longer piece of content. And we see it pop up. So you can zoom in and out, as I said, on this bar by grabbing it back and forth. So I want to be a little bit further out. So I'm seeing this is a pretty long song. So now we're at the point where you can drag that clipped piece. You can see you can move it to tracks, move it back and forward. And I know I want to have it near the end of the song to pick back up. So I zoom in again and I make sure that I don't want the music and the rest of the interview to come back in. So I kind of drag it and drop it where I want it. And let's listen and see what it sounds like. Let's go into here.
We know that you'll be performing as part of our summer.
Okay, so this is how I've decided to clip them together to make sure that they fit right. Now I know that we always use outro music. So I've already clipped my outro music and I zoom in to make sure, and I want to make sure, again, that the music comes in at the right time. I'm going to drag it to where I think it's going to be and then go back in that time code and listen.
Wherever you find podcasts.
So you may not figure this out as quickly as I did. It took me a few years and a lot of playing around, but you can drag back again to where you were. You can listen to it again to make sure everything is right. Sometimes I take a break and walk away for a bit, save my file, just to let my brain reset a little bit and then come back and check it. So now it's time to upload and publish the episode. As I have mentioned previously, we use Anchor.fm, which is a web-based platform, to publish our podcast, and it distributes it for us completely for free. So again, video inception. So on Anchor.fm, we see our dashboard. We already obviously have episodes up, and you can see we have our plays, our views, a little bit small in the past week. Up here, we click on New Episode and create an episode. If you already have it all edited, you can also click on Quick Upload. But let's create an episode today. So when you use your Create Your Episode window, you'll see there's Record, Library, which is previously recorded, Music. You can add parts of songs from Spotify because Anchor is part of Spotify. Messages, so you can have people leave call-in messages that you can import directly in. And transitions and sound effects. So for intro music, transitions, and all that, you can have those for free already imported since we've already edited the file. We're going to click on Library. These are things that we already have uploaded, but we're going to go and take our file, which is EBPL Podcast, Local Lives, Bob Denson Mixdown, and you can click on Browse or you can drag it in. The drag does work here pretty well. and it's going to tell us that it's processing, which means it's getting ready to have it upload and be ready to preview. And now you can see that the play button's ready, it has it, and it says you can even edit your file, which is where you can edit your audio. Once you have things dragged in, so say you want to add a transition, you can preview it in advance. If you click on click, you'll see that it adds it here. You can change where you want it to go first or go second. But we don't need that. Our file's already all done. So you can click on the ... more button and click on remove from this episode. So once you have all your files here, if you've recorded, transitions, music, you can preview it by clicking play. And then we're going to click on save episode. So once we saved it, you'll see there's episode options, saving it as a draft, publishing now. We actually have our episodes pre-scheduled a few weeks in advance, if at all possible. Let's add our episode title, which is Local Lives, episode 4, Bob Denson. So the episode description, I actually have it saved as a text file that I've already had set up. I already have the episode name, everything. It makes it a little bit easier than typing directly in the episode's description. So I copy and paste it. So to make links, you highlight your text, you copy them, and you can add them directly into their example link. I have it open in a new tab, but that's a preference thing. So again, for Instagram, we copy, we paste. The show notes are really important because you can share more information in there, links and more resources, especially when we're doing book recommendations, so we can link it directly to the catalog and people can place books on hold. We found it very helpful. Or also, if it's Libby or Hoopla, Canopy, you can have those links directly there. So when I've clicked the checkbox, I make sure everything's right. I kind of like these having bullets. Let's see. Bullets look good. We want to choose our published date, and it's going to be on Thursday the 21st. I have our episodes drop right at the change in the morning, so I have them go up at 12 a.m. And you can confirm. And as you can see here, so when you're scrolling down, you can actually add polls and Q&A. So you can choose your season number, episode number, full episode, trailer, bonus, content. If you're having something that is a little bit more racy, you want to put it explicit to mark it so it can be flagged. Because we have the limited series, we actually choose different cover art. So I have my cover art already saved. And you can zoom in and out, make sure it's fine. Click save. Wait for it to load. You'll see the preview. And so we make sure everything's right. We have the episode. You can actually edit your audio here. Check it one more time. Make sure your file size and numbers are right. Your episode name, your episode description, and your publishing date. You then click on schedule episode. And it says it's published, but actually ours is scheduled. And easy ways to share it to Facebook and Twitter. So you can see when it's scheduled to publish. You can actually see how far ahead we've scheduled episodes. So that is a quick and dirty version of how we record, edit, schedule, and publish the EBPL podcast.
We actually, besides this event, which is on podcasting, kind of general about things like that, we have 2 events in the fall that we're very excited about. So we're having music production with Brandon Kurzawa, who is actually runs Music Notes Academy and is a music producer and actually teaches people one-on-one how to do music production. So he'll be doing a workshop. It will also be like this. It'll be hybrid. So he'll be on site and you still be able to join on Zoom. And then also we're gonna have a voiceover workshop with Dennis Connors, who does voiceover acting and tutoring and training. And he'll be in November. Again, hybrid program. Please, universe, let's make sure we still have the option of being together, but if we don't, obviously. Do you feel comfortable trying out trying to play around in the studio or start a podcast from work or home? Yes. No, I need to know more. Oh, no. There's lots of different things. There's lots of different moving parts. It does not have to be difficult. For the people who are going to be in here, I'm going to let you literally record directly in the computer, click on things and see how it works. So we're going to show the different part. Yes. Ooh, would like to learn more. Why am I not shocked? That's always I want to learn more, which is the whole point. Our point is in libraries and our programs is you learn a little bit about something and we hope that you're excited and want to learn more. That's the whole point of what we do. So hearing that you would like to learn more always makes me happy because you're not saying, oh, I don't want to learn to do that. No, you made that more complicated. So, okay. Oh, we're tied. Okay. So learn more. So I have one more poll. And what would you like to learn about next? It is a free field. I am very curious. I think I know, but as I've learned, I could be completely wrong in my assumptions. So I would love to hear about, okay, you had this general test. What's that next thing you would need to learn to feel more comfortable recording the podcast? What would be the next thing that you'd be like, this is a component? Hands-on experience, of course. Hands-on experience, demo on equipment. The one thing about demoing the equipment in the recording studio is it's very cozy in there. So figuring out exactly how to do that hands-on experience demo, more about editing, how to include videos with your podcast. So video podcasting is something I really don't know much about. It's new. I do help record videos for YouTube, hands-on experience demo, more about editing, how to include it, developing content. Is it better to go script or freeform? I can answer that really quickly. That depends on how you are. I am a highly scripted person. Maybe it's the ADD brain or the gets very excited and easily distracted brain, maybe both. And so I prefer to work on script. I also pre-record my intros and outros on my episodes because it's always the same thing with the same format. And I've learned if I record it each time, there's at some point I flub and then I record it again and then I flub and then it turns into this loop of I get very stressed out. So for my decision of my workflow, I pre-record my intro and outro and use the same one. So it's always consistent. My colleague, Chris Barnes, who is the host of Read, Watch, Listen, is a completely free form. We have a general format of going, okay, you say these things in the intro, here's the interview. These are the 3 questions you usually ask for the interview. And then he just does the outro. He just does it all stream of consciousness. He's very personable. He can just do that. I freak out and then I start flubbing and then I'm like, I want to start again. And so for me, it doesn't work that way. So some people have that. It's really a personal preference. You kind of learn over time, especially with the pandemic, for those of us who did have the opportunity to work from home, you learn what the best way for you to be the most efficient and effective is. And sometimes it's until you try and you listen back to yourself like, oh no, I should not be off the cuff. I will say things or you miss things. So can you record at home and upload to the studio? Yes. You can record anywhere you can record and bring your audio files to edit. So you could record it here, take your files home. So you're like, oh, I have the time. I just want to do the major stuff here, or I can only record, but I have the software so I can edit at home. You can do it. So yeah, I have one comment here. Let's see. I do have an email address. It's mhosick@ebpl.org. If you can't remember spelling of my name, which I totally understand, if you email programs@ebpl.org, that will go to me as well. If you want to make a reservation in the recording studio, it's hard to see on my screen here, but I will, when I close the thing, if it's ebcreate@ebpl.org, you go, hey, I would love to use a recording studio. And they'll explain the process. It'll be a 2-hour window. You may have the ability to extend it. If there's something else in here, we're trying to make it so we don't have this, as I said, this clash of if there's people in here using sewing machines or being a little rambunctious, we're trying to figure out a way that it's not going to be a potential conflict of you being frustrated with your recording and all that. So that's why there'll be the reservation system. So that way we're hoping at some point there will be a calendar that you can go in and directly request your times. We're not there yet, the technology, we're still getting to that point. Hopefully in the fall, we'll have that set up. So it'll be even easier for you. So you're not going through an extra step of contacting someone. It'll be, you put in your request, they'll say, yes, go, and then you'll be able to have the space. So yeah, so this is the end for everything that's happening on Zoom. I hope that you guys did find it informative. Thank you for everyone who's come virtually. And for you guys here, you're gonna get to actually go play a little bit in the studio. So you guys excited?
Yeah.
Thank you everyone for coming. So I hope you all stay safe and stay well, and hopefully I'll be seeing you. Please reach out if you have any specific questions, and have a good night.